Welcome to Taking Care of Business on News Talk 1180 KERN for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock and on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday. And for the best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI, the Christian station. We're now on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and also 3 times on the internet on knookmedia.net, knookmedia.net.com. Serving Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm Marty Pay. My partner Clay Kerner is out on appointments working today, and our producer's Greg Held. We had a fun week last week with one of my favorite guests, former Congressman John LeBoutier. He's part of Fox Political Insider's team. Excuse me, and he's never afraid to call it like it is, and he sure did last week. Next week, we've got a very, very special show with David Stockman, President Reagan's former budget director, and he's written a new book called The Great Deformation, so I highly recommend that book. But today we've got a great program lined up. In the second half, we have a reoccurring guest, somebody who was President Obama's classmate at Columbia. He was the Libertarian VP candidate for president in 2008 and the author of a great book called The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide. He's always controversial, Wayne Allen Root. Some of you know I'm an insurance broker full-time, and I also teach at a university here in Bakersfield. And our first guest today in studio is one of my mentors who helped me become a professor here in Bakersfield, Larry Pickett. And Larry's the president of Larry Pickett Public Relations. Larry, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Okay, thank you, Marty.
So, tell us exactly what you do with your firm.
My consulting firm focuses on 2 main areas. One, general consulting in terms of public relations, marketing, crisis management, government affairs. But I also provide business training in several areas: leadership, team building, crisis management, presentation skills, strategic management, and also teach in a couple of universities in addition to the one that we have worked together.
Mm-hmm. What do you do with government affairs? I didn't realize you were involved in government affairs.
Well, essentially, I help companies or projects get connected with the right city council folks or county supervisors, depending on the need to provide them with information, and in some cases to get their approval for a particular project. We've had like refinery expansions requiring strategic or supervisor approval before they can move forward. Healthcare rate increases. Been working with some companies on that. So it's a matter of getting to the right elected officials and appointed officials to make sure they understand the project and what's involved.
Mm-hmm. Now, you also teach individual leadership and team building.
Correct.
Which is what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So, and then again, I thank you for all your help, helping me, at the university that I teach at. So
it was a pleasure.
Yeah, it was fun. So, let's talk a little bit about the economy and being in business. So, in this economy, there's all kinds of pitfalls that you normally wouldn't have in a normal economy. So, you've got a lot of businesses that you really do well in good times, but all of a sudden, in an economy like this, the pitfalls in the individual business show up. And you've got a lot of business failures. Do you see a lot of that in this type of economy? Businesses that would normally survive that aren't surviving now?
Well, again, it depends on the type of business. So whether you're in good times or bad times, you need to go into a process of strategic management and planning to make sure that you are on top of what is actually going on with the economy. Mm-hmm. And for some companies that do fail, there are many factors that can go into that. Maybe they've misunderstood what their mission is within a changing economy, may not have the resources to survive, the access to investment money. They may be misreading what their customers are wanting, because that's an ever-changing environment with more and more digital communications and how to reach their customers in terms of what they want and what they need, in addition to creating a need in some cases. So again, it's no matter what the economy is doing, if a company wants to survive, it has to take a very strategic management approach to
Sure.
staying in business.
Do you see right now, money's really cheap, but it's hard to get. Is that a problem with businesses now?
Well, it can be. It depends on their type of business and whether their sources for revenue are impressed with
Sure.
that direction, mm-hmm. and are willing to give them the resources. and a lot of it has to do with seasonal needs. I've seen some industries that are maybe booming in the fall, and then business tapers off after the first of the year, and so they have to survive in some cases on the resources that they have, which may or may not be there.
Sure. Now, do you find yourself in this kind of economy consulting with more and more businesses on an individual basis?
Well, yes, that's what I do in terms of a variety of different needs. In addition to, let's say, the government affairs connections, I've done a lot of work with crisis management. Where I work with companies, and any company has to look at its potential emergency or crisis situations. And so a lot of the individual work I do there is to sit down with them, determine with their input on what they could face, put together response plans, implement those if something happens, and then, of course, evaluate the outcome.
Sure. We're having a conversation with Larry Pickett from Larry Pickett Public Relations. So one of the things that I know you and I love to teach, and it's something that I think it's very important in business, especially now, is the old SWOT analysis. Let's talk a little bit about the SWOT analysis and how it can help businesses, and especially in this type of economy. Okay.
Well, whether a company calls it officially a SWOT analysis, they still should go through what is basically a four-step process. The S in SWOT stands for their strengths and weaknesses, which is basically an internal focus. And then you have the OT, the opportunities and threats, the external. And so as a company, you are looking at both of those factors and what the external influences are that might affect your ability to do business. The second step would be, after you've done that analysis, feel you have a good handle on what you're facing environmentally, then you can start putting together a plan of action. And at the very top part of that would be your mission, determining on an ongoing changing situation who you are as a company. And because that carries over into your implementation plan and also the involvement of your employees, which is critical to have success. And then can, of course, implement that plan. And like any process like this, at some point evaluating the outcome. Did our plan accomplish what we had hoped it would do?
Now, a SWOT analysis is something really companies should do every year or two.
It's actually, officially, yes, if they may go through a formal process, but it's really an ongoing activity. As you look at all those steps, you might say, look at your external environment, which is constantly changing, and have a feel for it, which influences that plan, but you're really actually going in a cyclical situation. You put the plan in place and evaluate it, but then you're going back to the original analysis on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and because the threats, the T in the SWOT, the threats do change, as time goes on. And your marketing changes. I do something every couple of months that's been a habit for years for me, is I will analyze for a 2-month period where business is coming from. And it's normally, yellow pages or referrals, this type of thing. Well, the last 2 times I've done it, I've been surprised at how much business is coming from the Internet. So because I'm doing that analysis every couple months, now I know that I need to put more emphasis and more funds on the area that's working and less on the area that isn't working. So it's a constant change.
Well, the influence of the Internet, you're right on point there. And more and more, I know part of what I do is getting in more and more into digital communications, and you're looking at getting your information out, your story out, and it's an opportunity to get more direct connection with your customer and potential customers, and then with that kind of direct connection to have a better feel for what they want and what they need and what they think about your organization.
When you say digital communications, you mean?
Well, you're getting into what you're doing with that. Let's say you might put out a news release or an ad. You're looking for other opportunities to get that information out. So in addition to, say, putting out a news release, you're looking at YouTube and Twitter and all the other sources of information and certainly a younger group of potential customers are using that even more.
Yeah, more and more. When we come back from the break, let's talk a little bit about the employee-employer relationship. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio News Talk 1180.